Dr. Gomes, when we think about the target set for 2030, 90%, 90%, 90%, we're looking at 90% of the persons who are living with HIV knowing their status, 90% of the persons, we're thinking about viral suppression, treatment, etc. My question is, in terms of stigma and discrimination, why not deal with stigma and discrimination first before we dealt with the zero bottom line?
And I think it's an excellent question, and I think it's actually one of the purposes of this meeting, is that we are not going to get to 90-90-90 without dealing with stigma and discrimination. I think if nothing else, the history of HIV struggle, HIV/AIDS struggle, has shown that it's a combined medical and civil society push that is going to make any difference whatsoever. So this meeting is actually looking at how we take on board another set of targets, fast track, which includes 90-90-90, but also speaks to discrimination and gives us concrete numbers in terms of number of new infections in 2020, 500,000, number of new infections in 2030. We're aiming, UNAIDS is aiming to 200,000. So they're very ambitious targets, and this discussion in here is a Caribbean leadership around HIV getting together to discuss what are realistic targets for stigma and discrimination for the Caribbean. And you're absolutely making the right point. It cannot be a medicalized approach entirely, because the first 90 target recognizes that 90% of those who are HIV infected know their status. Now, people who are HIV infected don't walk around with it on their foreheads. They don't even know. Key population members, people who are using drugs, people who are sex workers, people who are men who are having sex with men, don't walk around with labels on their foreheads saying, test me, please. So in order to be able to get to even that first 90, we're going to have to deal with the stigma and discrimination that keeps key populations away from clinics, that keeps people who are having multiple sex partners away from testing. So it has to be a multi-pronged approach that includes an approach to stigma that that drives away stigma and brings people into clinical settings to get the treatment, to stay in treatment, and in order to be able to end up with a zero viral load.